Imagine a family so blessed that prophethood runs in their bloodline. A family whose name is etched into the history of revelation itself. This is the family of Ibrahim, peace be upon him, a man who was tested with trials that would break the strongest of men. Yet he emerged as the friend of Allah, a title no one else would bear. From him came Ishaq, and from Ishaq came Yaqub, peace be upon them all. Each of them carried the torch of guidance, each of them chosen by Allah not only to worship Him, but to lead their people towards the light. In this sacred lineage, the truth was passed like a precious jewel from one generation to the next. And in the heart of this story stands Yaqub, a prophet known not just for his wisdom, but for a patience so extraordinary that it would be remembered for centuries. Allah had granted him 12 sons, and through these sons, the tribes of Banu Israel would emerge. Each child carried their unique personality, strengths, and weaknesses. But among them, there was one who seemed to radiate a light unlike the rest. This was Yusuf, a boy whose beauty was matched only by the purity of his heart. And although a father's love for his children is meant to be equal, Yaqub could not ignore the special signs that surrounded Yusuf. It was not favoritism born of preference, but rather an instinct of prophecy. He could sense in this boy a destiny written by the hand of the Almighty. Yet within this same home, among brothers who should have been protectors, a silent struggle was brewing. Jealousy is a shadow that can creep quietly into even the noblest of families. And the household of Yaqub was no exception. Among the older brothers, there was a growing unease, a feeling that Yusuf and his younger full brother Binyamin occupied a special place in their father's heart that they themselves did not. They did not understand that a prophet's attention is drawn not to favoritism, but to the divine signs in his children. Instead, they allowed their thoughts to wander into dangerous territory, paving the way for events that would alter the course of all their lives forever. One day, something extraordinary happened that would confirm Yaqub's sense of his young son's destiny. Yusuf awoke from his sleep. His face lit with wonder, and he hurried to find his father. Bursting with excitement, he began to describe what he had seen. "Father, I have seen in my dream 11 stars and the sun and the moon all bowing down to me." Dreams in the world of prophets are no random illusions of the mind. They are glimpses into realities yet to unfold. Messages wrapped in symbols carrying truths that only divine wisdom can fully unlock. Yaqub, experienced in the language of revelation, understood immediately the magnitude of what his son had just witnessed. The 11 stars were the brothers. The sun and moon symbolized the parents. And this act of prostration was not one of worship, but of honor. It foretold a time when Yusuf would be raised to a position of such dignity and authority that his entire family would recognize his elevated status. But along with this understanding came a deep concern. Yaqub's heart tightened as he imagined what might happen if the wrong ears heard this dream. He knew the nature of envy, how quickly it can ignite into a fire that consumes relationships, especially among siblings. Leaning closer to his young son, he spoke in a voice both gentle and firm. "My son, do not tell your dream to your brothers, for they may plot against you. Truly, Satan is a clear enemy to mankind." This was not merely a father's warning. It was the wisdom of a prophet who understood that not every truth is meant to be shared openly, especially when the hearts of listeners are not ready to receive it. Yet Yusuf, in his innocence, could not grasp the full weight of his father's words. He was still a child, unacquainted with the darker corners of human nature, untouched by betrayal. In this moment, we are given a glimpse into the reality that even those most beloved to Allah are not shielded from the trials of human emotion. The household of a prophet is not a place without conflict, for it is often within such places that the most profound lessons are written. Yaqub was aware that his other sons loved him and were loyal in many ways. but he also saw the subtle signs of rivalry. It was not yet an open wound, but a swelling beneath the surface. He had watched their glances, felt the tension in their silences, and heard the unspoken comparisons that passed between them. Such feelings, if left unchecked, could lead to dangerous thoughts, and these, in turn, could lead to devastating actions. What Yaqub did not yet know was that the dream he was now guarding so carefully would become the very spark that ignited the chain of events he feared. It would be a dream that lived in Yu's memory, a dream that guided his patience through the darkest pits of hardship, and a dream that would one day be fulfilled in a way no one could have imagined. For now, however, it was a secret between father and son, a treasure locked away in the chest of destiny. But secrets are fragile things, and when excitement outweighs caution, even the most precious of them can slip into the wrong hands. And in a house where jealousy already lingered like a shadow in the corner, it would not take much for a whisper to become a storm. The brothers of Yusuf could not escape the feeling that something was being taken from them. In their eyes, their father's affection was a scale tipped unfairly, favoring Yusuf and his younger full brother Binyamin. They had grown into young men, strong and capable, and yet the tenderness in Yaqub's eyes seemed to shine brighter when he looked at these two younger boys. What they failed to see was that a prophet's heart loves all his children, but his concern for those chosen by Allah carries a different weight. In the quiet spaces between their conversations, their frustration began to take shape, turning into whispered exchanges away from Yusuf's hearing. Resentment is like a seed planted in fertile soil. Once watered, it grows quickly. Every small gesture fed their envy. They thought proved their father's preference, and soon their whispers became plans. At first, their ideas were scattered and uncertain. Some spoke of taking Yusuf far away so he could no longer be at the center of their father's attention. Others, their judgment clouded by the heat of jealousy, suggested the unthinkable ending his life. The air between them grew heavy with these discussions, their voices low but sharp. Then one brother, perhaps more calculating than cruel, proposed what seemed to them a compromise. The brothers returned home, their faces painted with grief they did not feel. They cried aloud, their tears wetting their cheeks, but their hearts were hard. In their hands they carried Yusuf's shirt, now stained with the blood of a goat. They told their father the very story he had feared, that they had gone racing, leaving Yusuf with their belongings, and in that moment a wolf had come and devoured him. Their words were carefully chosen, echoing Yaqub's own earlier warning, as if to make their lie more believable. But lies, no matter how well-crafted, carry the scent of falsehood. Yaqub looked at the shirt they presented. It was stained but not torn. No predator would leave clothing intact. His heart clenched with the truth, yet he said, "Only patience is most fitting. I seek Allah's help regarding what you claim." He turned inward, placing his trust in the one who sees beyond all deception. Far from the sorrow of his father's home, Yusuf sat in the darkness of the well, his young heart comforted by an unseen presence. Allah inspired him with a promise that one day he would remind his brothers of this deed, while they would not even recognize him. This assurance did not change his situation, but it placed in his chest a seed of patience that would carry him through every trial ahead. In time, footsteps approached the well. A caravan had stopped to draw water, and a man lowered his bucket into the depths. When he pulled it up, he found not water, but a boy. "What good news! Here is a boy!" he called out, though the joy in his voice was not born of compassion. To them, Yusuf was not a child to be returned to his home. He was a prize, a commodity. Hiding their discovery, they kept him as merchandise. And when they reached Egypt, they sold him for a small price, a handful of coins, as if trading away a simple object. In Egypt, he was purchased by a man of high rank known as the Aziz. This man, upon seeing Yusuf, recognized his potential and told his wife to care for him well, perhaps to adopt him as a son. In this new home, Yusuf grew in strength and beauty, his character shaped by faith and wisdom. But his very qualities, the gifts bestowed upon him by Allah, would soon become the source of another test. The wife of the Aziz watched him as he grew, her eyes drawn to his beauty, her heart twisted by desire. This was no fleeting thought. It became an obsession that she nurtured in secret until she could no longer contain it. One day, when the Aziz was away, she locked the doors and approached Yusuf, inviting him to what is forbidden. His refusal was immediate and firm. He sought refuge in Allah, reminding her that her husband had been kind to him and he would not betray that trust. But her desire only grew sharper in the face of his resistance. She pursued him through the room, her steps quick, her hands reaching. He fled, his only aim to escape, but as he reached the door, she seized his shirt, tearing it from behind. At that moment, the Aziz entered, his eyes falling on the scene. Before Yusuf could speak, she turned the accusation upon him, claiming he had sought to harm her. The truth, however, was not hidden. A witness from her own household spoke, saying, "If his shirt is torn from the front, then she speaks the truth and he is guilty. But if it is torn from the back, then she lies and he is innocent." The shirt told the story clearly. It was torn from behind. The Aziz entrusted the matter to Allah. Still, his wisdom urged him to advise them, enter the city by different gates, not all together, warning them of the harm that can come from the envy of onlookers. The brothers returned to Egypt with Benjamin. When Yusuf saw his full brother, his heart swelled. Here was the only other son of his mother, the one who had shared his loss and yet been spared the well's darkness. In a private moment, Yusuf revealed himself to Binyamin, assuring him, "I am your brother, so do not grieve over what they used to do." He then devised another plan, one that would allow him to keep Binyamin by his side without openly accusing the others of wrongdoing. He ordered that the king's special cup be placed in Binyamin's grain sack. As they prepared to leave, a cry rang out. The king's cup was missing. The brothers turned, insisting they were no thieves. But when asked what the punishment should be for such a crime, they declared that the one found with the stolen item should be kept as a slave. One by one, the sacks were opened. Yusuf's men, searching from eldest to youngest until the cup was drawn from Benjamin's bag. Shock and disbelief rippled through the group. Some turned to Yusuf, protesting their innocence and pleading for mercy, offering themselves in Binyamin's place for the sake of their aged father. But Yusuf refused, saying that it would be unjust to keep anyone but the one in whose possession the cup was found. At this, the eldest brother refused to return home, unable to face their father after breaking their oath. The remaining brothers left with heavy hearts, carrying yet another painful story back to Canaan. Yaqub's sorrow deepened when he heard their words. 3 sons were now absent from his side: Yusuf, whose fate he still held in hope, the eldest who had remained in Egypt, and now Binyamin. Yet his grief was not despair. He told them, "I only complain of my suffering and grief to Allah, and I know from Allah what you do not know." His hope remained alive, anchored in the dream Yusuf had told him so many years ago. He urged them to return once more, to seek out Yusuf and his brother, and not to lose hope in the mercy of Allah, for only those who disbelieve lose hope in their Lord's mercy. When the brothers returned to Egypt, the famine's weight had humbled them. They stood before Yusuf again, their words no longer proud, but softened by hardship. They spoke of their family's suffering, of their father's blindness from grief, of their desperate need. They asked for charity, for compassion, for the release of their youngest brother. Yusuf could hold back no longer. The moment had come to bring the truth into the light. He looked at them and asked, do you know what you did to Yusuf and his brother when you were ignorant?" Their eyes widened, the air between them charged with realization. "Are you indeed Yusuf?" they asked. He replied, "I am Yusuf, and this is my brother. Allah has certainly been gracious to us. Indeed, whoever fears Allah and is patient, Allah does not waste the reward of the doers of good." The brothers, struck with shame and awe, admitted their wrongdoing. They acknowledged that Allah had raised Yusuf above them and confessed their sin. But Yusuf's heart was not a home for vengeance. "No blame will there be upon you today," he told them. "May Allah forgive you, and He is the most merciful of the merciful." With those words, years of tension and bitterness began to dissolve. He gave them his shirt and instructed them to take it to their father, promising that its touch would restore his sight. As the caravan made its way back to Canaan, Yaqub, far from Egypt, lifted his face and said, "Indeed, I perceive the scent of Yusuf, though you may think me senile." Those around him doubted, but when the shirt was laid over his face, his vision returned, and the truth he had carried in his heart was vindicated. His sons begged him to ask Allah to forgive them, and he promised he would. The family gathered and traveled to Egypt, where they were welcomed by Yusuf with honor. He raised his parents to sit beside him on the throne, and they all bowed to him in respect, fulfilling the dream of his youth, the sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowing before him. But Yusuf did not see this as his own triumph. He saw it as the unfolding of Allah's will. He turned in gratitude, saying, "My Lord, you have given me something of sovereignty and taught me the interpretation of dreams. Creator of the heavens and earth, you are my protector in this world and the hereafter. Cause me to die a Muslim and join me with the righteous." In that moment, the boy once thrown into a well stood at the peak of honor. Yet his heart was anchored not in the glory of this world, but in the mercy of the one who had guided him through every step of his journey.